What's going on, everybody? This is the first episode back as the Hoosier Homes podcast. Here we go. Today I had the pleasure of sitting down with somebody. His name is Chandler Floyd. He is not in real estate at all. He is an aspiring real estate investor. The reason I sat down with him is he reached out, just wanted to get coffee, get lunch, talk about real estate, talk about how he could get into flipping houses, how he could get his start in his real estate journey. This is not extremely abnormal for people. It's what I did when I started. I would just reach out to people and I would get coffee and I would get lunch and I would ask the questions that I didn't know the answers to. So it was really cool. I've gone to plenty of these types of meetings before. A lot of the times you sit down and the person on the other side of the table is like, yeah, so how do I flip houses? And you're kind of like, well, have you done anything? Have you researched anything? Do you know anything about real estate? Have you studied the lingo? Have you read a book? Have you done anything? And it kind of feels like a lot of times people are just wanting you to kind of give them everything instead of pursuing anything on their own. So it was really cool. The conversation with Chandler was actually the complete opposite of that. Luckily, beforehand, had the thought of, okay, let's record this just for, training purposes or for some content if it turns out to be anything good. And he had come with a full, iPhone notes of questions to ask me. So it was actually a very good conversation. Asked him some questions about his upbringing just in general, just to, kind of see where he came from. He's seems like a very nice young man, ready to get after it, get working hard. His story's kind of cool. He started working when he was very young from his situation with his family and has been working to provide for them for a long time. So you can tell he's ready to work. He's ready to work hard. We're going to try and find him a way to work together so we can teach him some stuff, and then he can help me in the businesses and whatnot. So it's a really exciting episode. First episode of Hoosier Homes podcast. Keen Talks is no more. So we decided to rebrand just because Hoosier Homes is kind of our conglomerate that we're making. We've got Hoosier Homes Management. That's our property management company. And now we've got Hoosier Homes Realty Group, which is the realtor team that I'm going to be running, getting more and more realtors involved in the investment side of real estate and of acquiring investment properties for investors, as well as helping them run the numbers, showing them rehabs, renovations, kind of a whole conglomerate of how do you invest in real estate, especially for long distance investors. So if that's you, if you're looking to invest in Indiana and you're a long distance investor, you're out of state, maybe out of country, for sure reach out. We can take care of you. We've got me as a realtor right now. I've got kind of another realtor that we're going to bring on the team hopefully soon, but he's already doing some work with us. And then Amy is also getting her realtor's license. So we'll have a couple people who'll be able to take care of you as far as acquisitions. And then obviously we can help you with the property management with once you purchase the rental, or if it's a flip, if you want to sell it, we can do all of that also. So without me rambling anymore, we're going to jump into the conversation with Chandler. Again, if you have any questions, reach out. If you like this video, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. It helps the algorithm. I've been listening to a lot of Dave Ramsey lately. He's got a lot of good one-liners in there. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all, is what he says, Mama says. So he says that about his podcast. If you want to leave a bad review, leave it for somebody else. But try not to steal all of his quotes. We got to get some for ourselves. But here we go. We're going to jump into the conversation with Chandler. I hope you enjoy. Just shoot me questions. What do you got? What do you know and where are you at with it? And
so I've done here and there, and I've been around flipping houses.
Construction and
right.
Yeah.
I've done demo, I've done remodel. My dad, he worked flooring for 16 years. So nice. I did flooring, I did grout, I did tile, backsplash, anything you can think of, I've done it. I've done plumbing, I've done electrical. Drywall. It's just, I worked for an installation company for a while. We did spray foam and we did blow in, so attics.
So why did you switch from that to, the landscaping or with Zach?
Because that was all off the books. That was all
Gosh, like cash. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I was able to just work and not have to deal with
Yeah.
any of it because my dad worked for a long time and then he got hurt.
Gotcha.
So at 12 years old, my dad went from being super able bodied to no use of his legs.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
So
wow.
he couldn't work. He
Yeah.
couldn't do anything. He was in recovery for almost 8 years.
Wow.
And he can walk and he can like get around, but he doesn't have any feeling in his left leg. It's like a peg leg at this point.
Wow.
And so I had to grow up pretty quick. I've got 5 younger siblings.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the oldest of 6. So
yeah, I got to take care of everybody.
At 12 years old, I was trying to find work and
yeah.
I was working. So I got to the point where it was like, well, I can't work off the books the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I was about 16. I went and worked for a guy, worked out on a horse ranch, and then did that for a couple of years until I graduated. I was about to turn 18. I got into some trouble. And had to deal with that whole legal system, go through everything,
mm-hmm.
get back to where I was able to actually like make an honest living and not be worried about am I gonna end up back or whatever. So turn 18, go through all the things I need to, just deal with it, and graduate spring 2022. I graduated Friday. I started work Monday.
Nice.
I was blessed enough that my grandfather, he worked for the city of Kokomo and he's worked there for 50 some years. So he got me a job and I'm working, and it was 40-hour work week, 50-hour work week every week. And I just did that, but it was kind of on and off because they didn't have a lot of work during the winter. So some winters I was laid off, some winters I wasn't.
Yeah.
But then it was still only like 30 hours. So I was just went from working 60 hours off the books, flipping houses, to doing this. And I'd go back to that guy during the winter. Yeah. And I'd just help him out when I could. But it's different. It's a whole different type of thing. I love landscaping. I love lawn care. I love the satisfaction of it. But the reason I wanted to come talk to you was I don't know how to do the things that I need to do to be able to do that for myself.
To get to the house.
Right.
Like the acquisitions, the setting up the money.
Right. I don't know how to do any of that. Yeah. And the other thing is my 5-year plan looks a whole lot different than I think most people's, because in 5 years, I'd love to be living in Florida. My girlfriend's from Florida. Like, we're trying to find a way that we can do something that I could take down there. Yeah. But there's a lot of questions I have about that too. So,
like, not like financially retired in 5 years, but more just like
being able to live down there and have a substantial, right? Not be trying to paycheck to paycheck, because that's all that we've ever done in my house. And that's not what I want to do for my kids. Yeah. So
like, you've got the manual labor experience, and you've got would you want to do all the work yourself? Probably at first, at least do that, and then move wherever after that.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even mind starting out giving it to somebody else. Like, if that's what I got to do, then that's what I got to do. But I've got like this list in my head that's like, these are the things that I think I need, but I don't actually know.
Yeah. So just right off the get-go, where do you live at now? Do you rent, or do you buy, or do you own?
I live at home right now because of the economy. Yeah. My parents are cool with it.
Yeah. Your parents are local?
Yeah.
Okay. So right now, buying straight flips is difficult. Right. Like, I'm not even flipping anything right now because it's hard to find them. There's a lot of competition, especially for Indiana. Like, everybody has this idea that Indiana is this great place to flip houses. And it is. Like, you know, if you can get them at the right price, it's the same as anywhere. If you get them at the right price, that's your absolute biggest thing, is buying it at the right price, because that's where you're going to make your money. If you buy it 20 grand too high, your budget runs 10 grand over, your money's gone. Like, if you're assuming you're wanting to make, like for us, when we do them, like, we want to make at least 25,000 off of a flip. It doesn't always happen. It's only happened, I think, off of 2 of them, because you have something that goes 5 grand over, and those margins go quick. So a lot of people have even more than the 25. They're like 30, 40. But if you don't have like off-market leads,
Right.
It's hard to get properties right now. And by off market, I don't even mean like wholesalers. Have you heard of wholesalers?
Yeah.
I don't that those are technically off market, but for all the way I consider it, those are really on market because there's just a separate. It's not the MLS market;
Right.
it's a separate investor market. Like most wholesalers have their list, they blast them out. You're still in the same competition, if not more. So by off market, I mean like you got the property, like you went
Right.
direct to seller, whether it's like mailers or emails, or you just know someone who's selling and you got it. Right now, that's the place where you can really get properties.
Right.
What I would push you to do, how you said you're 21. What I would push you to do is to do like burrs. Have you heard of burrs?
Yeah.
To do those and to potentially do like live and flip burrs.
Okay.
So like buy a property, move into it, ideally like a duplex.
Right.
It's like house hack it. So fix up both sides of it. Even if you don't want to move into it, I guess base level is buy a property, refinance it, and get your money back, and then keep it.
Okay.
Because the margins are different, the numbers are different. Your ability to pick them up is easier because if you refinance and you make $0, that's a fantastic burr.
Right.
If you leave in a couple $1,000s, that's still great. Like there's people who leave like 20 grand into a property. We have one in Noblesville that we did, and I think we're all in for 8,000,
Right.
and it's worth 250,
Okay.
and my loan is for 80%. So right off the gate, I've got 50 or 42 grand in equity that
Right.
I did nothing for. Well, I did the work, but
Right.
so that's what I would push you towards doing, and not look at it as like a short term. You're 21, you've got plenty of years to work.
Right.
You know, I've got plenty of years to work. I'm 28.
Right.
So like I would look at it from a long-term vision of, you know, if I can do one a year over the next 5 years, you'll have 5 properties that you're in for $0.
Right.
Even if they're not cash flowing year 1, by year 5, you'll be cash flowing a little bit of money, and you'll have gained all of that equity over those
Right.
5 years. So you could have, you know, $100, $200, $300,000 of equity where, you know, theoretically you sell all of them, you just take your gains and you're like, cool, I made 300 grand. Or you get a line of credit, so then you can start doing 2 at a time or 3 at a time.
Right.
However you want to play it. It just real estate is a long-term play. Like real estate investing is a long-term play.
Right.
If you want to start a business, that's what flipping is. And
Right.
for all intents and purposes, it's a business. There's caps on like what your potential is. Like there's people who do hundreds of flips a year, and they're like, doing 100 is the best number. Like if you do 110, you need an extra person on payroll, and then
Right.
your margin's gone. So now I have to do 140 to make that person's salary worth it, but I can't do 110 without another. So like it just turns into a business, like
Right.
how the numbers work out. And there's a lot that can go wrong, especially when you're doing 100 at a time or 200 at a time. So like it's a great hustle. Like if I'm going to do 2 this year and I make 30 grand off of it, I put my sweat equity into it. Like, yeah, your time, you made 30 grand, however much your time you spent, like that's your hourly, how much you
Right.
made. You just have to make sure that that's more than what you make at like your job.
Right.
If you're making $20 an hour at your job and you made 15 off of the flip, it's like I just risked all of that for no reason.
Right.
You know, it's got to be worth it. But I would look at it that way. Like you've got plenty of run. Does your girlfriend work?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, like I would, whether it's here or there, wherever you're at, I would try and find duplexes that need work and live in one side. If you can keep living at your parents, then great, rent out both sides. But then
Right.
whenever you go to live on your own, live in one side and
Right.
house hack it. Take out the biggest expense of people's budgets, which is their rent or their mortgage. And if you pay a couple $100 or 0, then I mean you'll set yourself up for huge success for
Right.
sure.
Okay.
But burn through your questions. Let's get it.
So my first question is just I want to know like how you got started. Like what's your story? What does this look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. I got started. We were living in California, me and my wife, and I was still in the military out there, so we couldn't. Well, I could transfer, but it's easier just to stay. So my reserve unit was in California. I was working at a security company doing like access control, cameras, keypads, alarms, like installing and maintaining. And then I ended up getting a job with Northrop Grumman, which they have a big defense contract with the government. They service the B2 or the B2, they make their F-35, stuff like that. So I was doing like site security for them. And my personality, like I'm not a corporate guy, probably
Right.
very similar to you. Like even in the office now, like Amy can tell you I'm kind of stir crazy. Like I it's just it's hard to sit in the office. So I like being out, but um I basically just started by bigger pockets. Like I had commutes every day,
Right.
over an hour commutes every day. So I would just every time I was in the car, I would listen to podcasts. Started with bigger pockets, moved into I don't know, a bunch of random ones. Ryan Pineda's podcast. Um, I read books, articles, YouTube videos. But then when COVID hit, we were in California still living with friends, and like me and my wife lived in someone's house, just rented a room from their house because it's
Right.
so expensive out there. And basically just decided we didn't want to do that, and like didn't want to the life we wanted to move. So we wanted to come back. We moved to Tennessee and then we ended up back here. But long story short, just I studied a lot independently, and then I had my Northrop income, and then she worked in California. So we used that income to qualify for a house in Tennessee.
Right.
Why the lender let us have a primary in a completely different state blows my mind. But I think we told him I was going to work remotely because at the time it was COVID. We were working remote.
Right.
Physical security you can't really do remotely, so it's a little bit of a joke. But um, all I did was I connected with a realtor. I think through Bigger Pockets in Tennessee. Um, just every day I would look at hundreds of houses, just flipping through it to see what the market, like what was selling for what and all that. Found one. We went under contract, had an inspection. It was like literally falling apart. So we've dropped that one and found another one. I would call lenders and just like, hey, I literally know nothing. Tell me everything. Like, just tell me everything that you can about buying a house so that I would understand the process. The same thing with the realtors. Like, I would just like, as long as they would stay on the phone with me, I would talk to them.
Right.
So we bought that house, moved into it. I gutted the upstairs, did all new drywall, flooring, trim, everything, new bathrooms. And at the time, we had gotten pregnant with our first, so we decided to move back up here to Indiana. And we had bought the one in Tennessee. We bought one in Greenwood on a land contract. So like basically an IOU.
Right.
Like I gave the guy $10,000. I don't know where I got that. I have a business partner too, so he had given me some money up front to start doing flips. So that's where I got that from. So I gave him 10 grand. Said I'll take over your payments. It was like $800 a month, and then I was doing the work in Greenwood and in Tennessee, so we were kind of driving back and forth. And then we finished paying him out at close. So whatever I sold it for minus like his lien position, basically like a mortgage. So that's how we started. We flipped the Greenwood one. I think we made like 27 grand off of. And I had gone under contract on another house here in Westfield from a connection we had from church as just a rental. So that like at the time it was probably not the right decision because we took literally all the money we made there and just put it into a turnkey rental, which paid us a couple $100 a month. But fast forward 3 years later, we sold that and made like 120 grand off of it. So it made, in the long run, it was great. In the short term, I didn't have a job. So we were making no money, and I just made money off of a first flip and then gave it away. So like short term it wasn't great, but long term it was good. But honestly, like when I was in your stage, I would have the same questions. Like you look at something like, holy cow, like how did you get there? And it's a lot of work. You know, it's a lot of mistakes. Like even the last flip we did, we ended up tearing the house down. We rebuilt it, and I'm gonna lose money on it. Like it's not a good deal, but like you keep looking, and it's the same thing as like having a job. You know, you got to be humble and just ask people questions. Like people will answer your questions. What I've always done is get people to talk about themselves. People love talking about themselves. Like ask them what they did, and they'll just rattle forever. You know, it's like they love some me. You know, so
everybody's got to love a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So get people talking, ask questions. Don't get stuck in like analysis paralysis. Like be okay making a mistake. You specifically will be able to cover a lot of your mistakes doing the work yourself. Like I think that is one of the most powerful ways to get started because you don't have like, oh, the contractor gave me a bid for 30 grand and I've got to pay him. Because in all reality, like half of that's labor. You know, it's like, yeah, you will technically make more, quote unquote. Granted, your time is worth something, but when you're starting out, if you make $5 an hour, you know, you would have made more at your job, but you're also gaining the experience.
Right.
And if it takes you 6 months, it's like, well, that's just on top of my other job,
Right.
like it's just an extra.
Right.
So,
So I guess another one would be, what was the most mentally draining aspect at the beginning versus how it affects you now?
oh, um, I would say the most mentally draining for me is like acquisitions, like
Okay.
finding the property.
Right.
I can talk to people all day long. Like I can do construction, I can burn the midnight, like go late, like work
Right.
late, all that stuff. My personality is not really like a sit and like analyze and scroll. Like I forced myself to do it, but at this point I don't really do it anymore because I don't enjoy it.
Right.
The most, well, I guess maybe that in all reality that is true. For me personally, the most mentally draining was like money,
Right.
like knowing where I got money from, having to pay people back, all that, those sort of moving pieces.
Right.
A lot of it is because we had very little money. Like we weren't like balling out or anything. Like we were
Right.
very much like paycheck to paycheck. So that's just naturally draining when you've got a
Right.
wife and kids. But from like a work perspective, like I'm not a huge like detail person. So
Right.
I'm like, when I go to look for faucets, I just walk in and buy one. Like I don't analyze, this one costs $3. It looks the same as the one that costs $6, that kind of stuff. The last couple flips we did, I hired my mom to help me do all that because she's very much detailed.
Right.
So like that made it infinitely easier. I could just pop in like, hey, I don't like that. I like this, like that. Let's keep going.
Right.
It makes it so much better. So once you can get into the, what you enjoy doing, that makes it so much easier.
Okay.
For sure.
Let's see. So here's a big one for me, is how has your faith been tested through this business?
For sure. Yeah, that's a good one. I have learned more in the last, well, we've been married for 6 years in August, so 5 years. I've learned more that I am not big and God is big through all this than anything.
Right.
A lot of that coming from the provision standpoint. Like when I quit my full time, so when we moved, in California, I had a job, quit both of our jobs, went to Tennessee with no like W-2.
Right.
The plan was to do all real estate. Like I said, we had the flip. It worked out. We didn't take any of the money from it, so we're just kind of like draining our money down.
Right.
And we were pregnant, so I decided when we moved back up here, I was like, I'm just going to get another job. So I had worked. I don't know if you know Start to Finish.
Yeah.
My buddy, I worked at Turf Boss years ago in high school out of Lebanon, and he owned that, and then they merged with Start to Finish. So I had called him. I was like, hey, I just need a job while I find something else, and he had got me a job there, and then worked with a company downtown after that. So when I had quit that job, I had my license, my realtor's license, and there was for sure times where I was like, dude, I don't know how we're gonna pay the mortgage, like, because I just started realtor work. Like year one of being a realtor is usually terrible.
Right.
And then we were still trying to flip, and I was managing like maybe 4, 5, or 8, somewhere in there, like somewhere under 10 properties. So like
Right.
making, I don't know, $400 a month, $300 a month off of that. And the Lord, like I remember specifically there was one month I had met a guy in Bigger Pockets out of Hawaii, and he asked me to be his realtor. So we found a property. I didn't help him close it because it was through a wholesaler, so I didn't get a commission from that. But he asked me to help manage the project because I had done flips before.
Right.
And he's gonna pay me like 5% of whatever the rehab budget. And like my mortgage was due like 3 days later, and he had paid me like right before it was due. He paid me, I think it was like $1,400, and my mortgage was $1,400. So like just watching the Lord perfectly provide
Right.
through all those times is very like make you feel very humble, and very thankful for like God is good, and it's also a little bit of reassuring, like this is what the Lord wants me to
Right.
do.
It's very open
Yes.
door, closed door.
Yes.
You gotta.
Yep.
If it wasn't gonna work, then it
would close the door for sure. Yeah. And that's how we've operated our marriage. We're like, hey, like we pray about things, and we're like, we're gonna pursue this until you shut the door. So I've gone after a lot of houses over the years, like I don't know if you like seller finance, creative finance, that world. Like I've gone after some crazy things, like $5 million house in Carmel. I'm like, hey, I'll pay you with this, and they're like, no, buzz off. I'm
Right.
like,
well, okay,
yeah, closed door. Like, but if you know, like my dad always taught me, the worst they can say is no. Like if you don't ask, you'll never know. Exactly. So we would go after stuff, and things wouldn't work out. And I mean, the Lord, He just provides. Like if you rely on Him, He'll provide. And like you said, even it may not be the providing that you envision. Like now we manage, I don't know, 160 properties, 170, somewhere in there, I think, Amy. Most of those I would never have envisioned managing. Like they're on the east side of Indy, and there's some in rough spots. So like I wouldn't have set out to do that, but that's where the Lord has brought us, and it's provided tremendously. So yeah, it's kind of rolling with I think having an open hand in anything is, if you can get there mentally, some people are so locked in, like, I want to be a football player, I want to be a whatever, that it blinds you to like the signs of, hey, you should stop.
Right.
We've been pretty open. It's really been like, hey, how do I make money for next month? All right, cool, I'll do that. Like, just kind of rolling with it. And the Lord has been kind. And He, last year or 2 years ago, whatever it was, we closed a huge deal that got us a lot of properties and me a good commission. And since then, we're just keep trusting the Lord. And no matter how much money you make it, you can make money really fast and you can lose really fast. Like
absolutely.
Money comes and goes, and inherently money is neutral. Like it's not evil. The love of money is the root of all evil. Exactly. It's what do you do with your money? Are you giving it to people, or are you selfish with it? Does it cause you to take your eyes off of Christ? And I think thankfully the Lord has been kind, and we just kind of keep on chugging, He's taking money that we've made and we're like, all right, cool.
Exactly.
Like we'll lose it there. And like the last deal that we did, like we're losing money, but whatever. It's like, just keep trusting the Lord.
Maybe the next one doubles.
Maybe. Yeah. And if it doesn't, who cares? Like, exactly. There's a fine line, of who cares. And also like, we gotta provide, like everything can't lose money.
Exactly.
But also in that, you have to trust the Lord that, He'll provide. So yeah, it's fun. Owning your own business, I'm sure Zach would say the same thing. It's very testing on your faith. And it's very like, yeah, if we don't get paid, like I can't pay my employees, I can't pay my food bill. Like, and there's a certain tipping point where it's like, okay, we're quote unquote good. Like we should in theory make more than we need every month. And I think that's where you kind of you start falling off. You could easily fall down of, start trusting in yourself and trusting in your business more. So there's a healthy like fear in there somewhere. There's a line of, being in that healthy spot.
Okay, this is just a very, very short explanation question. Is how true is it for you personally that when you start doing something that you love for your work, like your main job, how much value does it lose when it becomes a chore?
When you start doing something you love for your main job, when does it wear off, basically?
Right.
I don't really know. I think for me, I don't love property management. I don't know if anybody would really say that they love it. What I do love is owning my own business and like making my schedule, and more than anything about owning your business, like, yeah, you can make your own schedule. If I don't want to work today, I just go home. Granted, we don't make any money or don't have progress necessarily until we're there. But like building the culture of your business is the most fun thing to me. Like, what does my business look like? What are the people what kind of people do we hire? What do we do in our business that like I'm proud of? Where does our money from the revenue go? All those things, like, that's really fun for me. So any kind of business would provide that. As far as it being a chore, I mean, I think in any business, that's the reality. Like, there's things you're going to love, things you're not going to enjoy. I hate accounting. I hate billing. I hate receivables, and like that's all that detailed stuff. So the second I can hire someone to do all that, I don't know if there'll be a chore in this job because I'll be doing the things I enjoy. But I don't really know how else to answer the question. I love what I do, and none of it really feel like I can work all day and it'll. I still enjoy it. It's never really. At my other jobs, I used to be a clock watcher. I'd be like 4:59, like, let's go. Need to get to 5, and the second hit 5, I'll be out of there. Now it's like, holy cow, it's 5. part of that is just the nature of owning our own business, but it's also like I enjoy doing it. I enjoy like these kind of conversations,
Right.
talking with clients. When I can do that all day and fill my whole day up with like, meeting with people, it's great.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, okay, here's one. Uh, how much do you think Trump being in office now, regardless of your standpoint in
Mm-hmm.
politics,
Mm-hmm.
regardless, the fact that he's talking about inflation dropping
Mm-hmm.
and cost of living dropping,
Yeah.
the market is all going to drop. How is that going to affect what you do?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, no one's got a crystal ball, and
Right.
we don't know what's going to happen. Under Trump's management, before the economy was in a fantastic spot
Right.
until COVID, and then it went down, and then obviously we had the huge blow up in 21. Um, the market before that was different than what it is now.
Right.
Like inflation wasn't in the same spot. The last 4 years have been pretty bad. Broad brush
Right.
over the country. Here in Hamilton County, there has been inflation, obviously, but there's so much money here that
Right.
it didn't have as much of an impact.
Right.
The thing about what I do, and the reason we kind of did it from the beginning this way, is like if I'm a realtor, I'm a property manager, and then I have the ability to do flips, my own rentals, investments. So if people aren't buying, they're renting.
Right.
So for me, if the people aren't buying and there's still houses for sale, that's theoretically means that investors will pick them up, or maybe they won't sell. But we kind of hit both sides of it. So if people aren't buying, they're renting, we fill up our units, I make money there. If they
Right.
want to move out as renters, I can hopefully help them as a realtor and make money there. I think it's either going to be really good or really bad. I think
Right.
either Trump will be able to accomplish the things he wants to, and like utilities will go down, like the gas companies will lower their prices, water, electricity, which is where he says it all starts, and that makes sense. Like the more you got to spend to do all of that, the more it rises everywhere
Right.
else, and the groceries go up because it costs them more and all of it. So theoretically, yeah, inflation goes down. We're not going to see it for at least a year or 2 years. It's going to take time. So maybe at the tail end of his term, it'll be good, and then hopefully we get another Trump-esque type person, or maybe not Trump, but like business and
Right.
like JD Vance, if he becomes president and carries on what they're doing, that'd be great. Or we could see some crazy activity from behind the scenes, which is what I think might happen. Their terrorism is very real.
Right.
There's a lot of bad people in our country. Whether it's left or right or whoever's doing the political stuff behind the scenes,
Right.
some independent freelance, we want to run the country type deal, big pharma,
Right.
all those
Exactly.
people, like if they're making noise behind the scenes, like that'll for sure affect the economy. Overall, I think it'll get better. I think the problem is if inflation goes down, interest rates go down, competition goes up. So like
Right.
for you as a starter, it probably may not be the best situation for you to pick up properties. Right now, it's a buyer's market. Like buyers got all the power.
Right.
So if you can find the deal, you could probably get a good one. When the interest rates go down, I could go get a regular conventional loan and flip a house, theoretically.
Right.
So for what I do, it's all kind of gravy. Like rents will go up if people can't buy houses. Rents will go up because demand increases. If people can buy houses, then I'll sell more as a realtor. So
Right.
it kind of balances me out. And we also do construction. Like we're in that world.
Right.
So I've got construction projects going on with different subs throughout the city where people are going to keep spending money.
Right.
Investors will spend money. I would love to get into more like just regular people homes and like doing renovations for them. So yeah.
But where you're at, you were able to have a hand in both pots.
Yeah.
And then something on the back burner in case.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. So like if all stuff hits the fan and like we lose all of our management clients and I can't get realtor clients, I'll just go crazy and try and flip my own properties. Like
Right.
I'll have nothing to do but call people all day and find a house.
Right.
So it's kind of like that. It's the same model as like mowing companies. What Zach did, like the little guy will always have opportunity because your overhead is so low.
Yeah.
Like as of right now, my overhead's higher than it's ever been. I have to pay Amy. I've got other people I pay. I've got contractors. I've got an office space. Like, but when it was just me starting, it was just me. Like I just sit at my computer and work. It's like if you want to start a lawnmower company, you just start knocking on people's doors. Hey, how much do they quote you? Okay, I'll do $20 less. Like it's easy. Like who would not do that? Like at the end of the day, like yeah, you want your lawn to look good, but it's like if I could save $20 a mow, sure, let the high school kid cut it.
Exactly.
So there's always that opportunity for the small guy. It's a little different in real estate, but your overhead, like if you're going to go in and do all the work, your overhead's less than like Ben buys Indy Homes is a big buyer here in Indy.
Right.
He has to hit certain margins to pay his overhead. Otherwise, it's not worth it. So you could go undercut him and make 15 grand. You're like, cool, I made 15 grand. Where he's like, that does nothing for me, you know?
Right. He's like, oh, I lost 15 grand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I needed 30 and I made it 15. Yeah. Yeah. So
okay.
I don't remember what the question was, but hopefully that was an answer.
No, yeah, it was just originally how was the new office gonna affect the economy and the way that you run everything.
Actually, you came prepared with some questions.
Yeah.
You really sat down and thought about this.
So here's a big thing for me. If my 5-year is, I want to be doing this in Florida, I want to be able to do this, that, or the other, regardless whether it's me and a couple of guys or whatever.
Yeah.
My biggest concern and the biggest thing that I've been reading about is you can't get insurance in Florida if you're within 50 miles of the coast.
Yeah.
So as from the real estate side, can real estate get insurance for homes? Like if I go to a real estate firm and I say, hey, I'm a solo contractor, I have this house, can I go to you and get insurance to sell a house?
What do you mean by real estate firm? Like a brokerage?
Yeah.
No, brokerages wouldn't, like realtors would not give you insurance. I mean, you could get insurance, it's just gonna be expensive.
Right.
I mean, maybe like the big people probably, like State Farm probably wouldn't cover you or Geico or whatever, but you can for sure find somebody. Like we use, it's called NREIG, National Real Estate Insurance Group, maybe, or something like that.
Right.
And they probably have some policy that you could get. It's just going to be expensive.
Okay.
Because they have to make sure it's worth it, for them, and that they're going to cover themselves.
Right.
And maybe I'm wrong. They could literally just say no, but I'm sure there's some kind of hazard insurance out there. Like we have flood insurance here. Right. It's way higher, but I'm sure there's some kind of, maybe there's not. Maybe you just have to throw it and see what happens. But
so far, what I've read is that you really there are
there's
very
nothing.
few there because of the hurricane rate, because of the possibility for tidal wave, especially for the coast. But within that 50-mile range, anywhere from if you go from Panama 50 miles in, you're gonna not have insurance because there's really heavy possibility for you to get hit.
Yeah. So I mean, in that case, you would have to be extremely wise, and I would probably be able to have the cash where you can pay for the either the repairs or the house if it all it goes south. If like it gets demolished, like you need to have the cash to put it back together, or else you're really going to be hurting. Granted, I think land on the coast in Florida is extremely valuable anyways, because people want to come in and build their own houses. It's just a blank slate. So maybe being very strategic of where you buy, like obviously always be strategic of where you buy. But if you're buying a crappy house in a nice neighborhood, it's like, well, even if it gets demolished, like they can build a really nice house. Or also just being very like, I know this house is going to take me 1 month, like really keyed in on how long it's going to take you. And then just plan around the bad seasons, like hurricane season, just like don't buy right before hurricane season. And, that maybe that's a time where you're doing something in Indiana or you're doing it inland in Florida somewhere. I actually have a guy in Florida who does tons of flips. Okay. Like, I think he's in, it's the south, west side, not Miami, like the other side of the south side on the Gulf, I think is where he's at. Okay. So he'd probably be a good resource. He's young, like in his 20s. He's younger than me. He's probably maybe close to your age, and he does a lot of flips every year. Okay. So he'd be a good person to talk to, or maybe even like get a job with him and like, hey, like teach me how you're doing this. But he for sure does stuff on the coast, so he would probably know those answers even better than I would, for sure.
And I'll be down in Florida next week. So
there you go.
I may.
Yeah, I'll shoot you his contact. You call him and be like, hey, I wanted to flip in Florida. Can I come shadow you for a day or whatever?
Awesome. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. What part of Florida are you wanting to go to?
Well, I'm not sure where I want to end up.
Just anywhere in
but
Florida.
she would like to stay in Florida. I love Florida. I love the weather.
Yeah.
The weird tinge of snow they just got. I don't really like that just because I'm trying to get away from all that.
Yeah.
But she's real heavy. All her family's down there, and it's way cheaper to fly from Florida to Indiana than it is to go from Indiana to Florida. For whatever reason.
Yeah.
Her tickets when she came from there to up here and back were like $160. My tickets from here to there and back are $400.
Oh wow.
So because it's touristy versus you're leaving a tourist section to go to a rural community. So but yeah, so there's those. Here's kind of to parry off that question is, would you ever consider moving your business and what you do here to Florida?
No, I wouldn't, not because of any business reason, just because we want to stay here.
Okay.
Like that, we go to church
right.
at Cornerstone.
Right.
Unless if the Lord decides to take us somewhere else, then no, we probably wouldn't. We probably wouldn't move anywhere.
And that's a very like personal like standpoint. And that's what I wanted to see.
Sure.
Because everybody has their reasons. And
we don't necessarily invest like buy and sell here. Like I think Indianapolis is a great market, and like Hamilton County owning rental properties here, like you're gonna win in the long run. Do I think there's better places if you can afford it? Yeah, like I mean, I hate to say California because it's all like on fire right now, but like the houses in Santa Clarita have tripled in the last 10 years. I mean, if you had a house there, like you're swimming in equity. So like if you can afford it and the numbers work out, like my brother-in-law, he does flips in California. In like Point Loma and San Diego area, and their spread is incredible. Like we buy a house for $100,000, we sell it for 200, and you make 30. Like they buy a house for 600, sell it for 1.2 million. Like they could make hundreds of thousands of dollars off every deal. So if you can afford it, and you've got either lender contacts to give you the money for it, or you've got an angel investor, or you've got the money, whatever it is, there's arguably way better places to flip. Granted, like Carmel, there's tons of flips in Carmel.
Right.
Carmel is one of the oldest towns in Indiana. There's super old houses there. The problem is you get like primary home buyers who want to live in them, and they come and they fix them themselves, and then they just live in them. So their numbers are like, who cares? Like I'll lose $100,000 and fix this thing up,
but I'll be here. My family will be here for the next 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is where we want to live. So it's just investing in themselves. But if you can find flips in Carmel, you could make serious money. Like there's multi-million dollar houses in Carmel. Yeah. I mean, you guys probably cut a lot of them, you know? So like you can do it. It's harder. It's a lot of competition. But like Florida, California, there's probably houses all over the place where you can make really good spreads. So yeah.
Well,
if that's where you want to be, then go for it.
And that's another thing though, is like, I'm not saying anything one way or the other, but also I don't know what the Lord has.
For sure. Yeah.
In 5 years, it may not be Florida. It may be Hamilton County. It may be Tennessee. It may be Kentucky.
Yep.
So it's what I'm doing now is I'm trying to get in contact with people who can help give me the knowledge to get me to where I think I need to be, and then let the Lord come in and just kind of redirect me where I need to go.
For sure.
I'm not.
Exactly.
I don't know what my 5 year actually looks like.
Yep.
I've got an idea of what I want it to be, and it could completely flip upside down.
Yep. That's a great spot to be. It's a very humble position to be in. If you were like, I'm going to Florida and that's it, and you've got some, humble pie coming. Maybe not, but
I feel like a lot of people though, that's
about it's kind of how it ends up. Yeah. But no, I think that's great. I mean, I would say a lot of people, I hate on realtors all the time. And a lot of investors hate on realtors, but it's a very powerful way to make money, especially in Florida. Like your price point's so high. Right. I'm assuming. I think there's parts of Florida that are not as high.
There are some, but a lot of it.
But even if you're like living outside of Miami and you go into Miami to do business, like you can make really good money, and it just gets you into the world of real estate.
Right.
Like you could get your license here. I don't know if Florida's a reciprocal state. Like you might have to do the whole course again. But even if you get your license here for the next 5 years to help you, sell your own properties or just subsidize your income and it's like any job, it's like the lingo. Once you know the lingo, you're a step ahead.
Right.
Like I had a call with a wholesaler or it was online listed as a for sale by owner, but he was a wholesaler behind the phone. And it was a kid whose dad and family do it a lot, and he had no idea what he was talking about. And I was like trying to ask him questions, and he was like getting upset because he had no idea what he was saying. And it's like, what, you just at least got to learn the lingo just so you, from a validity standpoint.
Right.
Like I'll look back at messages I sent people on Bigger Pockets, and I'm like, holy cow, dude, this is terrible. Like, why did they respond? Like, I look like a dummy asking these questions, but you know, it's just time spent in the game, you know.
In anything.
Yep.
Okay, so here's my big question is, what are the questions that you think I should be asking that I'm not asking?
I think you asked a lot of good questions. The fact that not every single one of your questions was like money related is really encouraging. You know, like obviously you have to provide and you have to get into stuff to make money, but if that's your biggest focus, I think you're already kind of in a wrong spot. As far as questions you should ask, practically you need to learn like how money works, who wants to make what, where you can get money from, like hard money lenders, what's the downfalls of them, like origination fees, lender fees, closing costs, private money, like what kind of returns are people wanting to get? Because if you go and say, hey, can I borrow 100 grand and I'll give you 2%, they'll be like, I can make 6% in the money market. Like, why would I give you that money? And it's less risky. So like knowing what they want, knowing how to ask the right way so that you don't sound like you're one, trying to take advantage of them, or two, just that you have no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if there's like a specific set of questions that I would think you need to ask. I would say like be willing to be the butt of the deal. You know, like experience will pay you more than money will. So like if you need to partner with someone where it's, hey, you take 70%, I'll make 30, but I want to get a deal done. Like you put up some cash, we'll get a hard money loan. I'll do literally all of the work, but and you take most of the profit, but I want to have that experience and be able to do the deal. Like if you can get into that, like that's pretty invaluable. And then you'll meet some people where it's like, shoot, this guy's willing to get after it, even though he didn't make as much as me.
Right.
And then over time, you kind of just switch like, hey, I've done 10 of these for 70% now. Now we're going to do 50-50, or we're going to do 60-40, and we're going to switch the turn the table. Yeah, switch the narrative. And experience will always play out. Like, even as a realtor, it's really unfortunate you write a contract and you call and they're like, how long have you been a realtor for? It's like, what does it matter? Like the contract's the contract, but people care about like, who am I talking to? Am I talking to someone who's going to know what they're doing, or is it a newbie? Am I going to have to train them? So I was just like, get into it, and don't be, I mean, clearly you're not afraid to ask questions, which is good. Like just ask people who are doing it. Don't take everything I say as gold. Like take it with a grain of salt, ask other people, and whatever, you know, the Venn diagram, whatever overlaps, like that's probably true. Because everyone looks at things through a different lens. Like my numbers are different than a cash buyer because I'm not spending cash. My numbers are different than someone with no kids and no family and no like risk. My number, like everything is different for every person. So what I need to do every day is different than what you need to do. Like my goals are different. I don't want more risk. I want less risk, and I want to pay down my debt right now. Like I'm really looking to like get to no debt so that any money we make, we can just pile it up and then buy rentals in cash. Whereas like 2 years ago, I was like, why would I ever buy in cash? Like I can get a loan and keep my cash. But it just changes over time. It's like, yeah, I can have a mortgage, but also if my income goes away and I've got to pay a mortgage, like what do I do then? Now I got to sell the house. Where if I own it cash, if I own 10 houses in Hamilton County in cash, making $2,000 on each house, like that's a pretty good income.
Yeah, that's a really good income.
And it only will get better. And then worst case scenario, like absolute worst case, all of my renters stop paying, or all of them vacate at the same time. I own 10 in cash and I sell one and I make what, $300,000? I can live off of 300 for a long time, and still have 9. And the likelihood of that specific event happening is pretty low. But if you're super leveraged on 10 properties and all of them go vacant and you got $10,000 due, or that's probably cheap, like $17,000 due, then yeah, that's a little spicy.
Yeah.
So like, I would ask questions to yourself of like, what are my goals? How am I going to get there? What is something I can do every day that'll achieve those goals? I don't know, like when you're looking at marriage with your girlfriend, but like if it's close, like make sure she's on board with all of this.
Right.
Don't throw anything in the pot from her. I wouldn't risk anything from her until you guys are married. Right. Like, yeah, just make sure you guys are on the same page. Yeah, I would just, the business side you can figure out, like the numbers you can figure out, you can learn. It's like, why am I doing this? What's my goal? I mean, you're already asking, where do I want to be in 5 years? Am I okay if I'm not there? Stuff like that. And yeah, I think you'll be good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah. Good thing we recorded it.
Absolutely.
Now you can watch it back. Yeah, that's sick, dude. I'm excited for you. I mean, hopefully there's something that you can get done pretty quickly. And I mean, I'm even thinking of like, what do I got going on that I could use you for? I know Zach has got you, but I might have to go poach you from Zach and start doing some stuff.
if you've got stuff, like right now especially, we're really slow.
Yeah.
Like I've just been kind of hanging out.
Yeah.
I DoorDash on the side.
Oh, there you go.
It's
I
drive a little Toyota Corolla. I get like 40 miles to the gallon.
Yep.
So I just drive. I put it around town and I hand people food. And
yeah, I mean, honestly, while you're door dashing, I would be looking at houses all the time. I'm sure you do. Like, hey, that house is overgrown and looks like trash, and I'm in like a nice neighborhood. Let me like text me and I'll look up the owner and we'll call them.
Okay.
Or you can get like what is it called? Deal Machine, like allows you to skip trace.
Okay.
And like find people's phone numbers. I think you can go on like Hamilton County property cards and like find people's names and potentially find their phone numbers. White pages, you can pay to get people's numbers.
Or if you go through Beacon and you just click on the property and find the name, you can go to online phone book.
Okay.
And you can just look up their name and it tells you their phone number.
Perfect.
And you can call them.
Yeah.
And you don't have to pay anything. You just background it.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, like that's what I'm saying is you've got the time to like do all that. Like for me, I'm like I got to pay for something that's like it's like this. So you find deals like that, bring them over here and we'll figure out how to get it done. Like, don't be afraid to, like, even if you have no experience, like I would just say like the person who has the deal has everything.
Right.
Like someone with $1 million, if they got nowhere to put it, it's not worthless. It's literally worth $1 million, but like, they're looking for something to do with it.
Right.
If I've got $500,000 just sitting around, like it's not making me much money in a savings account. So if somebody's like, hey, I'm going to make you 10%, and you do nothing, it's like, yeah, sure, throw it at that and see what happens. Because maybe you find some younger guy who's like gonna really kill it, and then over the next 20 years, you can make a lot more than 10% off of one-time investment. So, yeah, I would do that. Even in 5 years, like living at your parents is a sweet deal. But if you can get into a house hack, I would for sure do that. Because 5 years from now, you could have $100,000 in equity, or just a burr that you're looking to do the work on. I've got a house right now that's vacant. You can go work on it if you want. I need to paint it, and I don't know. I'm probably going to sell it, but I don't know. It's in Noblesville.
I've got the time, so we figure something out.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Cool.